Net, new little video. On this one, it's gonna conclude the infectious disease part, and it's gonna be on water. And I'm not an expert on that field. Like I said at the beginning of the series, infectious disease is kind of a weak section for me in my own career. But I wanted to get into it because it's a big topic, and I'm glad I did because I've learned a lot through the adventure and through the journey as well, and it showed some things I was lacking in my own preparations and stuff, and so I remedy, or I'm on the process of remedy to them. But today, yes, I want to talk about water treatment. And obviously I don't want to talk about things that Anisium as which filter to use and things like that, because this has been discussed over and over and will be discussed more, and there's even more product coming in and stuff. But I wanted to kind of take a different approach to a topic that we hear a lot about talking in preparation and preppers communities, but more from a different perspective. So I'll talk a little bit more about the process of water treatment, because treating your water is one thing out of the process, and we'll see why it's important to understand that. Also, we'll discuss a little bit more about chlorination and why that one I want to focus a little bit more, and three quick tests that are cheap to do and that we can do. So let's have it start. And this is a cool little study that I found in one of the, and also you'll see down, I'll put a lot of some of the resource that I've used for that, and mostly I've been using things from Doctor Without Borders and stuff. And some will say, well, you know, I'm not planning to have water for 10,000 or 20,000 or 100,000 refugees, and it's true. But if those techniques works for a big group, I don't know why it wouldn't work for a 20 or 100 or 5 people. But the concepts are still there, and so I thought. And the other one too that I recommend is that Coursera course that I'm putting down. Taught a lot of stuff on the household treatment in developing country, and this is one of the reasons why is because knowledge is power. And this was during Hurricane Rita, and they did a little study, and they went to see people like, okay, now that your water is gone so bad, did you know what to do? Did you had things what to do and stuff? And basically, I'll let you read about it, but the study that came was that basically a lot of people, besides boiling water, didn't know what else to do. And also a lot of them had stuff like chlorine products at home, but they didn't know even how to use them. So knowledge is power, and not only have a first plan, but have a backup plan and an improvised plan. So that's the best way that you can get out of things like that. And so this is the F diagram, and the reason I bring this one is basically the disease, how they transmit. And we were talking about reservoir before in the beginning of the series, and one way of having a reservoir is having feces. And so if you have someone that is sick, and we talked about that in the diarrhea one, basically you can transmit. But it's very important here to notice that it's not just about feces straight to the nose. It can go through your water, it can go through your fingers, it can go through vectors, so like flies and things like that. But also it can go through your field. So anything that can touch your food, so even like the glass that you're drinking, so if you see through this, let's say you know, like you disinfect your water, everything is perfect and stuff, but the glass that you're drinking your water of has been cleaned by fingers that had feces on them, well, you're still gonna get it. So it doesn't matter the water that you have, it's the container that was contaminated. So basically you really want to prevent this. And the field is a little bit the same thing, is that if you irrigate your field or grow crops with bad water, then your risk of contaminating your food with certain infectious that can survive and stuff, and again, the vectors are a big issue. So those are all things you have to keep in mind when you're treating the water. It's not just about water. You see, water is one part of it, but there's a lot of other stuff that can get you sick. And so therefore, in the what they call the household water treatment, the treatment is one part of multi. Where you get your water is a big one. How you treat it is another one. How you store it is another one, and this is why we're going to talk about chlorination. But also when you use it. So now, like, let's say we were talking about that dirty glass. Well, now if let's say I have this great water, is all well treated and stuff, but when I clean my dishes I use bad water, well, my glasses is contaminated. So it doesn't matter if I'm gonna be drinking the perfect water out of that contaminated, or eating out of dirty dishes that have been contaminated. So this is why this is what we talk about the water process. It's not just about getting water and filtrating your water. It's how you conserve the water. For example, I could also treat my water, keep it here, but I didn't use a proper storage method, or been contaminated storage. Let's say I didn't put a cover on it and it's open. Well, now flies can fall in it, other dirt can fall in it, and recontaminated that water that I spent a lot of energy treating. So keep that in mind when you're doing your preparation, and also when you're doing your plan for preparation of water, that this whole line is very important. So like in my own prep, where you keep your water versus where you're where you're cleaning your dishes and when you're going to the toilet should be well separated. Well, it's a little bit more difficult if you live in an apartment and stuff, but they're very, and then just like when we enter a room that somebody is sick with like influenza and stuff, doesn't have proper PPE, you can kind of have the same mentality when it comes to water, as your clean water only clean people should have. So they just clean their hands, they're using stuff, and then people cannot go back and forth, or else they can contaminate your water, and the breach of that security means that somebody else can have. Keep in mind that have diagrams. It's not just about water and treatments and stuff. There's other places that you can be contaminated, just the source. For example, one of the big cause of the cholera, now that I see this water tap here, was the handle on the source that people were driving in the 1800s in London, and when they removed that handle and people had to go grab their water somewhere else, they suddenly decreased the number of cholera that was propagated. And all it was is that basically people were touching this handle and they were taking the water and then bringing it somewhere else, but that was the handle that was contaminated, and so basically it was transmitting. So even if you had all the safety in the world of your water and stuff, but if you touch that handle and then you go touch your something else and it's transmittable that way, well, then you just transmitted it to somewhere else. So keep in mind that when you're doing your water, there's different steps on it. This is also another thing from one of the research I found, and it was pretty cool, is the different intervention and their decrease percentage on reduction in diarrhea, mostly in children, and I'll have the study linked down. And you see, like, just by improving your storage, you decrease by 21%. So for example, if I have good filtration, it's only 63%. But if I add filtration to an improved storage, I have decreased my risk of diarrhea by 80%. By the way, just look at just flocculation and disinfection, and reduction of diarrhea is 52%. Versus 63 for filtration. So you don't need very all the time expensive stuff, and expensive disease, sometimes just by disinfection and what they call flocculation, is almost as good as the other one. Notice too that chlorination is very low, 37%. It's because Clostridium, there's some disease that the chlorination do not kill, and so keep that in mind, that there's some stuff that chlorination doesn't take care of, and that's important to remember, because and we're talking mostly about diarrhea here, and but when you're treating your water, it's for other disease too, but mostly for diarrhea. And so keep that in mind, and your chlorination himself is enough. So an approach would be to mix and match. So improve your storage for sure, that way you decrease for that. Improve, maybe have some disinfection, and then filtration with some chlorination for long storage. Well, if you're using multiple like this, then you're reducing a lot of that stuff. Your solar disinfection is about 31%. And we'll talk in the second part about that chlorination.